we're going to change my wife's office doors from these French doors to this.
All right, welcome back to TJ Works Wood. We're going to be making these walnut barn doors out of walnut plywood, and I went ahead and got some of this pink foam backer board to put down, so whenever I do cut the wood, it's not going to have as much, if any, tear out. The reason I did that was A, it's smart, and B, walnut is really expensive, as is all wood. That's why I decided to go with plywood, which is really heavy, and I do suggest having a second person help you out. I did my best here, and it worked, but it was not fun. The doors are going to be 7 foot tall, so here I'm marking out 7 foot from the end, and you'll notice I put 3 marks. The reason I do that is because you can connect 2 marks by 1 line, and it should be straight, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perpendicular to the side and parallel with the end. So I go ahead and mark that just to be better safe than sorry. Measure twice, cut once.
All right, new tool time. So I had this old Craftsman circular saw. It was my dad's. Let's see, I don't see a year on here. This was probably made before they started keeping track of time. Long story short, I plugged it in and fire, and first off, it just started when plugged in. Trigger wasn't pulled. Fire shot out of the trigger. I wasn't holding it. It was on the ground. And then poof, smoke. So, yeah, I figured maybe not use this one anymore. And I got myself a brand new fancy yellow DEWALT 7 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna try this out. See what happens. Another cool thing that I got is the Kreg rip cut. So I'm gonna put the circular saw on this, and we're gonna make rip cuts on this safely and accurately. Alright, well, that gnawed that up a little bit, but whatever, it's a straight cut. I am pleased with that. So, barely got into my backer board, and, ooh, that is a clean cut right there. So I think we just determined which side is going to be the inside and which side is going to be the outside. But yeah, perfect light, there we go. So yeah, this side, there's no chip out. Okay, so I'm officially impressed. All right, let me mark this actually so I don't mess it up. But all right, so far this setup after one cut gets the double thumbs up. Let's see. Did we get a clean cut? Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's just going to be more of those. The great thing about that jig is that I've just set it for 6 inches. I shouldn't have to measure again. Just zoop, zoop, zoop. I'm basically going to cut this all down. And this is going to be the sides of the doors. And we're going to double up. So I'm going to need 4 per door, so 8. These are 6 inches, so I should be able to get all of them out of one sheet. If not, well, I bought another sheet, so yay. Although it might not, we'll figure it out, But, all right, let's get to cutting. Oh, that's what I need to do. is label this guy so I know where his inside and outside. I should already know, but I've lost my pencil, obviously. So let me find that, let me label it, and then we'll get to cut.
Another great thing about using the foam board behind the wood is that you don't have to worry about eating into your table while the board itself is supported the entire length of the cut. So it's great, and it also has a bit of a grip capacity so the board doesn't slide around.
All right, so that got us all of the vertical pieces. Sheet B or sheet 2 or dose is going to be all the horizontal pieces. It's going to go 1 foot, 6 inch, 1 foot, 6 inch, 1 foot. So let's get that cut and see how it looks. I will say, with this, I'm so much farther along than I thought I would be. Like, I thought those were going to take all day. So just doing this, I feel ahead because I didn't have to wrangle it and push it through the table saw, which is, I never feel like it's super safe. I can't afford a track saw, so I just always dealt with it. I think I found my answer to the expense of a track saw. It's like $40. Get one. I am not sponsored yet. Hi, Craig.
Making crosscuts like these on a piece of plywood would have taken me forever setting up a straight edge using my circular saw. Once I got all the cuts completed, I wanted to check to make sure that they were indeed uniform, and boy, they were, and that is one great feeling.
Okay, so we got all this cut in very little time. So again, the Rip Cut Jig by Kreg. It's legit. Get it.
So all of the cross members have been cut to their height, but now they need to be cut to their width. So I just set up my stop block on my miter saw and just blew through it.
All right, I'm gonna go eat dinner, but everything is cut. All right, so the cutting is done and my belly is full. Now let's do joinery. I'm going to use pocket holes, which some people look down on. I really like them. They're going to be especially nice since they'll all be hidden. Since it's basically going to be 2 frames put together to make one door. The pocket holes will be on the insides of the 2 frames, so they'll match up and you'll never see them. So that's what I'm going to do. Also, the reason I'm going to do that is because, dun, 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 I swear I'm not sponsored by Kreg, but I like their stuff. I got the K5 Pocket-Hole Jig. I know they have a new one that came out. I researched this one well before the new one came out. I just never bought it. And then I didn't want to do a lot more research, so I just got this one. If you're not familiar with it, I would suggest searching it. Pocket-Hole Jigs, K5, Kreg. It's great. I'm sure I'm going to love it. I have one of their smaller jigs, which works fine, but for these, like, I bought it specifically for this, actually. This is the project that pushed me over the edge to actually buy it. It's going to be a lot simpler doing these smaller pieces, multiple pieces, than the smaller jig that I have where you have to clamp it on, drill, unclamp, clamp, drill. It's a little cumbersome for projects like this, so let's get to getting. I'm going to get this set up and we will get started. Instructions. All right, let's do this.
As you're about to see, this takes quite a while to get all these pocket holes drilled, but I can't imagine how long it would have taken without the pocket hole jig here. It just went by so fast in comparison to doing even a fraction of the pocket holes by using their smaller clamp-on jig. So I'm super glad that I got this, and I do again recommend checking it out. All right, now that all the pieces are cut and all the pocket holes are drilled, it's time to assemble. I'm just going to put the top and bottom pieces on first to this 1/4 of the total doors, and I'll put this right in the middle, and I'll put these two parts just bisecting the open sections there. Now you do have to clamp all these pieces down for the pocket holes to work. And I did forget to turn on my sign that my wife got me. I built the frame for it, and I've got a video for that. I'll put that up in the corner for you to check out. Now, once we get all these put on to both sides and make one frame, making the next frame is actually relatively easy because all you have to do is stack it up and line it up. Measuring's a good idea, but since there's going to be a front and back, you want the front and back to match. So measuring, you might be off by a little bit. Lining them up, you're going to be dead on. So it'll look really good doing it this way. And of course, everything's going to be uniform. So I'm going to do this with all 4 pieces, or 3 other pieces.
Alrighty. 4 frames are done. So 1 side per door. And now I'm going to do edge banding in the window frames. I'm going to do edge banding around the outsides as well, but I'm going to wait until the doors are completely done for that. This way I'll do the edge banding, and then I'm going to put a rabbet around to put the frosted acrylic in. I decided on acrylic, not glass, more impact resistant. Kids, dogs, cats, better safe than sorry. And it's also way cheaper and way lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. I'm going to just make a real quick thin strip jig, do about an 1/8 inch. I can't decide if I'm going to do an 1/8 or a 1/4. I've got plenty of walnut. This is a 6 foot piece, and I've got another 17 million feet over there that probably need to return. Walnut's pretty expensive right now. Just wood in general is pretty expensive. So let me get to cutting this, and then we will see how we're going to get it attached. All right, let's go. So real quick, let's just make a thin strip jig. It's going to be relatively easy. All I'm going to do is...
I just made this, threw it together. Check out down below. You'll see a link to Drew Fisher's jig, which is much better and looks a lot better too.
So, that worked. All these uniform thicknesses here. Look at that. Check that out. That is awesome. Ooh. Okay, cool. So let me, I'm going to have to kind of cut these down a little bit just to fit into the slots. And I'm going to have to cut way more of these anyway. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Probably could have got a 12th one, but this was, it wasn't comfortable cutting that thin of a piece. So we got these. It's getting a little late, so I'm probably not going to do much more of this tonight.
I'm just making a lot of miter cuts here so they all fit. I'm a true believer in cutting to fit rather than measuring to fit, because if you're just off by a little bit with your measurements, it could be too short and you've got to start over on that piece. But if you cut to fit, it will just fit.
Okay, so got all the trim on that, the edge banding. And now we need to, for the pieces that are going to be on the inside of the office, we need to cut a rabbet into it to set the frosted acrylic that I got. I got acrylic instead of glass because it's cheaper and it's slightly more resilient. So with all the kids and dogs running around, hopefully it'll stay intact. So what I need to do is just make the rabbet slightly deeper than that. And I'm going to have it about a 1/2 inch all the way around, which seems like a lot, but I just want to make sure it stays in there securely. Got a 1/2 inch routing bit. I'm just going to get this, the depth of that, and then I'm going to actually use this and just do like a little bit of a test cut and make sure everything fits before I hit those up, because who wants to do that and rebuild one of those things? Not me. All right, so let's get to it and let's see what kind of damage I can do to this stuff. All right, we're gonna do a rabbet on this, 1/2 inch in, 1/8 of an inch deep. We got brad nails in here, so I need to make sure I do a whole setup. This is just a test on this piece of scrap. Let's see what it looks like. Alrighty. So, yeah, that's just a hair under there, which is what I want, so I think that's gonna do it. Alrighty, let's get to getting. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is cut the acrylic over on the table saw right here, and yeah, so let's do that.
This was my first time cutting acrylic, and I did cut it to fit again because the measurement I made, and then when I took it over to the table saw, it was a little big, so I just kept easing into it, and it fit perfectly once I got it done. So I'll go ahead and rabbet out the other window pane areas. I got to chisel out the corners because the router bit is round and it leaves a round end, and I don't want to make round acrylic corners. If I had a router table, it might be a different story. It'd be really easy just to round them off, but since I don't, whatever, I'll just go ahead and square up all the corners of the window panes and cut the acrylic to size.
All right, found the sander. Ugh. All right, so now I'm going to cut the acrylic, the glass for this door. The other door I'll cut next. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this door together and see what happens. Well, I forgot to record cutting the acrylic, but I did. Got them all to fit, and now I'm going to see if I can put it together, see what it looks like. Okay, I don't exactly know how this is going to go. We're going to play it by ear. I'm a little nervous. We'll see. I think it should work. I'm going to screw and glue. Wish me luck. This is the frosted acrylic. Ooh.
Getting all the protective coating off of the acrylic was actually a little harder than I expected, but you know, it all came off. Now, I didn't know how to do this, so I just kind of blew everything off. I was going to just nail gun it all together, but I decided I was going to add glue first. I don't think I'll ever have to take these apart, so I'm not worried about that. I just don't want them to come apart by themselves. Now, once I get it all stacked up, I'm going to clamp it down nice and tight just so I can get the brad nails in. They're 18 gauge, so they should be fine. And I'm putting in probably way too many, but I don't want this thing coming apart. I'm just going to get it stuck together so it will never, ever, ever split, hopefully.
Okay, everything's evened up, and let's get some edge bending to it. All right, so get this little piece of scrap wood, which we have a bunch of other walnut that we'll be making the banding over, but I don't want to cut some of this bigger stuff right here until I know where this is dialed in at. So I'm just going to make a few test cuts on this and see where we're at. So marked out, this is the length of that, and this is what we need. But I want to have a little left over so it doesn't have to be like directly dialed in. So I'm just going to cut it right here in the middle, and that way it has a little bit of give. So let's see.
As you can see, I recorded this portion on a potato, so I apologize for the quality. I'm just ripping down some of the stock to make thinner strips so I can use that as the side banding on the doors so you don't see the plywood edging, and also just give it a little bit more resiliency so when it gets knocked around it's not dinging up quite as bad. Now we're just getting that edging to a uniform thickness. I learned a valuable lesson here. When you have longer, thinner stock like this, running it through the planer, don't leave the ends unsupported. One of the pieces did break, so I had to kind of get it all pieced together to make one solid piece again, because I didn't want to run another piece of stock through there, because again, walnut is expensive right now. This is yet another job that probably needed 2 people, but I did it all by myself, and it was not fun. While doing this, I did discover that there were only 2 studs in this wall that were above the door and lined up with the holes. That's because this is actually a double thickness wall on her office here, and all the studs are on the back side of it. So I did just anchor it into the drywall, which I later found once weight got put on there was not sufficient. So I did put a walnut backer piece on there for more support, and you'll see that a little later in the video. Now here we're putting on the hardware, and you have to measure it out pretty precisely so everything rides along the track and doesn't drag along the floor. And I just clamped some cedar board to the back of it so it didn't have any tear out, and then you just kind of bolt it in. It's pretty straightforward. I did take it in and do a dry fit, and that's when I discovered that the drywall anchors weren't going to be enough. Then I brought it out, took the hardware off, and taped it up to get ready for lacquer spray. And I did that because it brings out the color and grain of the walnut really nice, but it's also going to be protecting the wood from the small zoo that I'm keeping at my house with the kids and cats and dogs. But I just do a couple coats. I wanted to do 3 or 4, which I'll say here in a minute, but really I just decided that 2 was sufficient.
Now we let it dry for about 15 minutes. Give it another coat. I give it about 3 to 5 coats. Just kind of see how it goes, and then turn around, do the other side. I wish there was a way I could do both sides, but whatever. But yeah, you can see it darkened up real nice. So I'm really happy about that.
I forgot to record hanging the first door, and I didn't record hanging the backer plate, which you can see there at the top. But I did get it up, and it is pretty sturdy, so I'm not worried about it sagging or falling out of the wall or anything like that. And getting this hung up, they're not light, but they're not super heavy, and I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. So is my little helper there. He's really into doors that slide. Now just installing the guides at the bottom. There's a lot of different kinds. I like the roller ones, but more specifically about these, I like that you don't have to screw them into the floor. You can do it into the wall, so I'm not messing up our flooring. I drilled these holes whenever I did the holes for the rolling hardware at the top of the door. I just did it off camera. It was the same process. I just put a piece of wood on the back, clamped it down, and then drilled through. That just reduced any tear out, so it looks a little better. And once it's installed, I really like the way these look. So the last piece of hardware we're going to put on are the bump stops. They are just basically giant chunks of rubber that have a piece of metal on the front and a piece of metal on the back, and you just sandwich the track in between the two pieces of rubber, and you just set it to where you want the door to stop on both the open and closed side. There's 2 per door, so that way it stays on the track, doesn't roll off the end, and also when you close them, the doors don't just slam into each other or go further past their open point and be over opened. Whether it's a bathroom door or an office door, if our kids see it closed, they see it as an invitation to come on in. So I am going to add a lock to the barn door so when my wife's on a call, she can keep them out. Unfortunately, it won't be this lock. This is for a single barn door. I've got the other one on order, but it's not going to make it here in time for this video. And there you have it. I think they turned out really great. More importantly, my wife does too. And if you like this build video, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit the bell to see new videos when they come out. But I really appreciate it. And if you have any criticisms or comments, just put them down below. Thanks. See you next time.